Hi, I'm Chris Sachin, and I'm the conference secretary for the annual conference. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the legislation process, how a piece of legislation moves through the conference, and also to remind you of some of the ways you can have participation in that process beyond just sitting and listening. To begin with, because you are members of the annual conference, you've been elected by your church or you are a clergy member, you are authorized to vote. And that means that you sit in the bar of the annual conference. That space will be set at our very first meeting together so that you will know that if you were seated in the right place, you have a vote and your vote will be counted. If you're not seated in that place, if you're behind the bar, your vote will not be counted. So it's important to pay attention to where the bar is and to sit within the bar. The legislation that we receive and everything that I'm going to tell you about it, you could also find in our conference journal every year. It's right now the conference journal is online. If you go to the conference webpage, it's at the quick links on the left-hand bottom left. It says journal, really hard. So find that and open it up. You go to the index. Standing rules is what you're looking for. And the very beginning of standing rules will describe the work and process of the annual conference session. The legislation that you consider will be of two types. One is administrative, something that comes from the Board of Trustees or from the Finance Committee, the Board of Pensions, and the other is more opinion pieces, what we believe, what we stand for, either within the denomination or in some local, national or state political situation. Anyone can write a piece of legislation for annual conference. Generally, they come from the committees and boards and agencies, but they can come from a local church, from an individual, from a couple people who get together and decide that it's important for us to take a stand and prepare a piece of legislation for that purpose. The call goes out for legislation in December, January, and it comes out in the instant connection. The legislation is always due on April 1. And when I say due, that means that it needs to be into the conference secretary's designated email box, which for right now is mine. When I get them, I put them into a format. And if there's something that I see that maybe the writer wants to think about a little more of how to put it or how to edit it a little bit, I'll talk to that person and we'll come to some agreement. The legislation, all of it, will get put online by May 1st, and you can print it, you can download it to your laptop or pad, or you can use the conference annual session app and follow and read through your phone that way. When you get to conference, on your name tag, you're going to have a designated section. And we ask you to go to that section because you've been divided up in a kind of equalizing way. Each section will receive anywhere from 3 to 5 pieces of legislation. And each group is asked to consider each piece, to amend it if they so desire, or to accept it as it is. And if your name is on for that section, you have voice and you have vote. We have a process, or we have a practice of having two voices for, two voices against before we take a final vote. So the maker of the legislation will appear and will make a presentation, will say what it means, and will be there to answer questions. The process goes on. There may be amendment, there may not be, maybe just questions. The vote is taken, and then that vote becomes the recommendation of the section to the plenary. If it receives 85% or more positive votes in the section, it will automatically go on the consent calendar. The consent calendar is a report that puts together all of the actions of the different sections. And if there are amendments, those are noted exactly so that you can see what was amended. And the vote is given. How many for, how many against. The idea is that once it goes onto the consent calendar, everybody can have a pretty good sense that 85% of those voting approved. The consent calendar is passed out almost immediately after the sections have met. There's a lunch break, and by the time you come back, or very soon thereafter, you will have this page that shows all of the items that were put onto the consent calendar. You can take a look. You'll have a specified amount of time if you want to pull one off. So listen for that if you think that there's something that you want to remove. Otherwise, we have to wait at least 24 hours after distribution of the consent calendar before we can vote on it. So it's like we're given that calendar, we hold on to it for a while and go on about other business. If something did not receive 85% favorable vote, it still comes to the plenary. And it comes with the recommendation of the section. It's presented as a negative recommendation. The legislation that we work with will be anything that gets pulled off the consent calendar or anything that did not receive an 85% positive vote. And those are the items that we will debate in the plenary, that we can amend, that we can vote up or vote down. There is one other way to do legislation, and that's what we call the petitionary process. Again, this is explained in the journal. But basically what it is when you have an idea that doesn't need to be voted on, but what you want is people who are thinking like you to participate in something. Maybe it's a petition. Maybe you want to get as many signatures as possible, and then you'll send a letter to the appropriate person and say, all these people feel this way about this issue. And everybody in the conference has the opportunity then to sign it if they want. It doesn't need to be discussed. We hear what's there. There's a designated place for these petitions to go. You may want to have people who are willing to support something with prayer or with talking to their congregation. Again, you can have a sign up and be a resource to them for the area that you're interested in, that you feel passionate about. And the people who sign up can connect with you and enjoy then the working on that issue with a group rather than just by yourself. This is a lot about the legislative process, but at the end of it all, when we get to the last one, at the end of the conference, there's a great feeling of, wow, look at what we did. We have helped to administer our conference, and we have helped to think through and to take stands on a whole variety of issues. Who knows, maybe next year you will be the one to bring the issue that everyone is really interested in. So just a reminder about the legislation. Sometimes late items come in, and up to June 1st, we have the option of accepting them or not. If they are accepted, they will be put as received and as prepared onto the website. So before you come to annual conference, recheck the website for the annual conference session and see if any new legislation has been put in since the last time you looked. And then you'll know exactly what will be before us.